episode of the Gunman Raw. So today we've got a Volkswagen Golf. It's actually a car yard job, and I'm going to be taking you guys through the paintwork stage. So yeah, pretty much down the side. The two doors have been repaired. There was I guess a relatively small repair on the dog leg there, and we're spraying these two doors as well. So the job is not going to be perfect. I'm definitely not expecting that out of this job. My boss told me, don't worry about it. Like I told him, man, these two doors aren't really that great. Like there's a few ripples and, you know, dents and stuff like that in it. But he said, don't worry about it, man. It's a cheap job for a car yard job. So just paint it. And I said, oh, okay, look, I did fix a few of them. Like there was some extremely like extra bad ones on that door. And as you can see here, I've gone and blocked through and improved them as much as I could within reason without taking too long. I then put some of that UV, so that's sort of, this colored primer is the UV primer, and yeah, that's just to, because if you go and spray wet on wet primer straight over body filler, the bog, it's going to pinhole. You're going to get pinholes in it. So that's why the UV primer is really good for stuff like that. Because it dries so hard, that's the thing. Like if you spray 1K or wet on wet primer over your body filler, you're going to get the pinholes, but then you've got to wait for a long time for it to dry. Whereas with the UV primer, it's dry in like 30 seconds to a minute, and then you can continue on. And if you do have pinholes, because it's such a hard surface, you can fix it up with the body filler. But all that aside, I've got my wet on wet primer in the gun, and we're ready to go. So you may have noticed that I've been using those microfiber cloths. They've actually been really good. And this is actually another one. I literally just started using these a couple of days ago, this week. These are much better than the previous tack rags. These are actually a 3M brand. They're called like 3M Aqua or waterborne tack rags. Much better than the Gerson ones which I was using. Hopefully you can still hear me. But yeah, I did another raw video on this channel the other day, and it seems to have been received pretty well amongst my audience. So I don't know, sometimes all it takes is a couple of comments and it can motivate me to start making videos again or something like that, you know. It doesn't always take heaps of people telling me the same thing. Sometimes someone, I can't remember his name, but he's like, man, these are the best videos that you do, and no doubt they're easier than on your main channel, so, you know, if you don't mind, just keep pumping them out. So I used to do raw vids all the time when I was back over there in Perth, but for whatever reason I haven't been doing them that much lately. But maybe I should get back into them. It's a good time of year. It's winter's over, it's spring. We're sort of, I guess, nearly halfway through spring, and the weather's getting nicer. So, you know, generally this time of year I get a bit more happy, and, you know, I don't know, there's just something about winter. It just sucks, doesn't it? It's too cold, especially now I'm back here in Melbourne. Anyway, I'll put my respirator on. That's the wet on wet primer, and I love the PPG wet on wet primer. Hopefully you guys can hear me properly. Honestly, the gun is louder than the boost. It definitely didn't used to be the case. Back there in Perth, man, that spray boost was so bloody loud. I've got the temperature at 20 degrees when I'm spraying the wet on wet primer down, and then once I get it down, I'm going to crank it up to 30, just so that this wet on wet's going to dry nice and quick. but I don't want it drying as I'm spraying. That's why I have it turn it down a little bit as I'm spraying. So yeah, and I'll turn the temperature up on the booth now. I'll clean this gun out and I'll be back in a few minutes. I've actually got to go mix the colour up too, so it'll probably be about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes until I come back in. Alrighty, so back into the booth. I've just gone and mixed up my colour. I've got that set up in the gun. The booth's up to 30 degrees as I mentioned before, so as you can see there, the wet on wet primer is definitely on its way to being ready to be sprayed over. But I thought I'd have a bit of a chat about these microfiber cloths. So I started using microfiber cloths to wipe my parts down with prior to paintwork. So originally it was, we ran out of these. This is what I used to use. They're just like the single-use wipes, you know. But yeah, we ran out of them, and I said to my apprentice, I'm like, oh, what are we meant to use? And then he's like, oh, some of the other guys used to use microfiber cloths, and they've got a big bag of microfiber cloths. They must be like the cheap ones, you know. So anyway, I'm like, oh, hey, actually, I remember motivated painters talking about that, and lots of other people recommending me to do it. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Why not? And I tell you what, it's awesome. It really is awesome. So I guess in the past, like, one of the reasons why I didn't do it was, well, I mean, the biggest reason is that my bosses were too much of a tight ass to even get new ones in the polishing bay, let alone getting them in the spray booth. But yeah, also, like, I didn't realize that you would have been able to clean them out with such good results, I guess. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Like, I've had these three. I've got 3 on the go. They're varying levels of cleanness. So I'll use one for over prime sections, so that if any of that dust ends up in the rag, it doesn't end up on my blend area, if you know what I mean. So that's something definitely to be aware of. So didn't have to be so cautious of it previously, because we were using a new one every time, you know what I mean. So yeah, but I tell you what, this is what was happening. I'll give you just a quick look. So what was happening with these ones, and these aren't the best ones, so I'm going to have to be honest. These ones here were leaving, look at that, you can see it straight away. It was leaving, like, I don't even know what you call that, but leaving some kind of a fiber on all of the masking edges. So anywhere that I had the sticky side exposed, it would leave that. And yeah, look, one of the first things I noticed is that my jobs did start to come up a little bit cleaner. Whether or not it was just in my head or not, I don't know, but it seemed to be the case. But yeah, no, they're good. And as I say, you can clean them out. So all I've been doing is just taking them out the back. We've got the detailing bay out there. I'll just get some degreaser and spray it on the ground. I'm actually going to get some clips so I can maybe clip it up on the wall like that, and then just degrease them, get the high pressure cleaner, strain them out, put them in the booth for a bake, and they'll be dry in no time. So yeah, definitely worth giving a shot. And as I say, like, you know, my previous boss, it was hard enough to get new polishing cloths for the detailing bay, but as I say, if I had have known even back then that you could get so much use out of them, they're probably even cheaper, a bigger picture. They're probably going to work out more efficient than these ones, because of the fact that you can reuse them so many times and you can continue to clean them. Because yeah, that was one of my big concerns previously, is, you know, what, you're going to use them for a couple of jobs and then turf them out. But no, you definitely can clean them out with good results. So there you go. Also, I think I mentioned, no, I did mention it before, I'm using these new tack rags, and they're heaps better. We were using the Gerson ones. Oh, they're just terrible, man. Don't get me started on those Gerson tack rags. Alright, so they're ready to go. I just got a prep sole. So I've got, as I said, this is the one that I use for panels, for fully primed panels or dirty panels. So I might use that one just on this dog leg here, just on that section. So yeah, like still using the PPG obviously at this shop, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite paint system, but it's not that bad. It's definitely not bad. Like you would call concept paints no mix, like you would call that bad. Like yeah, PPG definitely isn't bad, it's just not as good as Standox, you know. Yeah, like this is one thing that sort of seems to happen relatively often, like, and it happened on this job, like with the color that is, it's like you'll have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 bloody color chips and none of them are just quite right, if you know what I mean. Like they're just not quite there. Like one of them was okay, good enough for a blend on a car yard job, so don't get me wrong, like I'm not complaining, I'm just sort of pointing, more so pointing out, just telling you my experience with PPG. Whereas like with Standox or Chromax or even Spees, High Tech, like there will usually be one that's awesome, you know what I mean? Like you don't usually get, I mean sometimes it happens, but I don't know, it just seems to be more common for me. Like the colors aren't, yeah, the long and the short of it is the colors aren't quite as good on PPG, and especially for the European ones. I guess that Standox is a European brand, but on the other hand, it's the parent company is DuPont or Axalta, and I think that was actually Chromax originally, and that's an American company. So look, to be honest, where the technology originated, I really couldn't tell you, but I do know that Axalta bought out Spees, Hecker, and Standox, so there's probably no doubt a bit of sharing of their technology. Anyway, it's probably not all from one or the other countries, but PPG, I believe they're still an American company. So no doubt, you know, no doubt the local cars in America, the color matches are probably better. I don't know, there might be something to that, there might not be. Either way, we're ready to tack rag. I do really like having this booth box, it's very handy. Just keep a couple of things in there and save them from getting all dirty when you're painting, you know. I can sort of just tell, even just tack ragging this, like there's really not much. There's not much left. Like you nearly don't even need to tack rag. Like I'm never going to skip the tack rag stage. Don't get me wrong, but because there's no fighters or such small fighters in those microfibers, like it really leaves you with a very, very clean surface. Whereas, as I say, so even those single-use wipes, they do seem to leave some stuff behind, you know. So all right, let's get ready to get some base coat down. So what I'll probably do is, in between coats, I'll probably just flick the cam off so you're not just standing there watching paint dry. Leave that to me. Leave the important shit like that to me. I'm used to watching paint dry. I do it every day. Quite an exciting life I live. Go buy yourself a Gunman paint suit. Support the channel. Woo! Let's paint some shit, baby. Stay there. Let me know how the video quality has been for you guys. Let me know if you can even notice a difference. It's all shot in 4K at 50 frames per second. So first test, we go wet. So what gun are we going to use for clear? I don't know, I just make it up as I go. I've actually been enjoying using that starter Solar Edition. Full fan. Well, sorry, I tell a lie. I've actually been winding the fan in like half a turn lately. So fan in half a turn, fluid full, and 25 PSI, which is, what's that in bar? Hold on. It's just a bit under 2 bar. I just know it. I know the pressure's in PSI, because it's easier to, I don't know, it's easier for me to see on this gauge. Alright, there was a little repair here, UV body filler, paint straight over it, man, no primer. Have a look at that, insane, man. I figured that out myself last week, that you could even do that. I can barely believe it, but okay, so after talking all that shit about PPG, one of my favourite things about it is how easy it is to blend. Like it doesn't float. You see, I can just put that little bit of colour down there without it going all the way up the top or anything. It's very easy to blend the PPG EnviroBase. Very easy to keep the colour contained. Anyway, next up, I'm just going to be getting my air blower. This is what I always do. The boost cranked up to 30, as I already said, so it shouldn't take too long to dry. I don't know, probably 3 to 5 minutes. I just stand here with the blower and it'll dry off. So I'll flick the can back on when we're putting our second coat down. Alright, ready to go with the next coat. So yeah, it was probably only about 3 minutes. So what I do here is I wind the fluid in half a turn, and then I drop the pressure by 5 PSI. So second coat, 20 PSI for pressure. The edges, 1 coat's enough. So for the next 2 coats, I'm just putting on the faces. Unless I'm not confident they're covered, like sometimes I will. But, I mean, it's going over black wet on wet, yeah, it's going to cover in 1 coat, nice and fast. Now this coat here isn't going to take anywhere near as long to dry as the first coat because I'm not going on as wet. Yeah, it's probably only going to take 1 to 2 minutes to dry. Something that I definitely would not have done with 2-pack body filler. Painted straight over body filler. Amazing, man. Amazing. Totally amazing. I can kind of hardly even believe it. But as of making this video, it's going to be coming out tomorrow. I've got a review coming out on that Nova body filler. It is just the best thing that I've ever found. Like, definitely my favourite product in a long time. Anyway, I'll turn it back on when we're ready for the last coat on. Alright, so ready for the last coat, same thing. Wind the fluid in by half a turn and drop the pressure by 5 PSI. So it goes from 25 to 20 to 15. That's quite easy. And if I needed to put any more coats on after this, I would leave these settings the same. And as I said, it really didn't take long between the second coat and this coat. It really, yeah, because you're not putting it on as heavy, obviously it doesn't take as long to dry. Alright.
But yeah, it definitely takes longer than Stand-O Blue. Definitely. Like, yeah, you've seen how long even it just takes just to apply this stuff. Definitely takes longer, but I'm used to it. If my boss asked me which paint, you know, if I had a choice, I would say yes, Stand-O Blue. Any day, I'd say yep, bring that system in, but I don't mind this system. It's just fine. It does the job. Anyway, I'm going to be back in here. I don't even know which gun I'm going to be using for clearing. Well, I'm going to have a look out there and see what I feel like. And I'll see you guys back here in a few minutes. Rightio YouTube, let's get back to it. So I decided to use my favourite gun at the moment, which is the Sada True Soul Edition. But yeah, it's the X5500 1.3 high, full fan, full fluid, 2-bar pressure. Let's paint some shit. There we go. I've always found these. I've got to hold it in that hand when I'm adjusting. If anything, a touch lower, yeah. 1.9 to 2 bar. So that's right, I'm going to give the blend areas a tack rag. Because everywhere that I've fully coloured, no need to tack rag. But you'll probably see that we'll probably see some black overspray on this tack rag. It actually feels clean, it does feel clean. I don't know, you can usually get a bit of a feeling for how a job's going to come up. I've got a feeling this is going to be pretty clean. It does. It's only a little bit on this back rag. It's actually not that bad. Yeah, let's go. So LVC 136 is the clear coat that I'm using. It's actually an Australian clear, so made in New Zealand as well, Australia and New Zealand. I heard the reason that they bought it out is because like some company or somebody was importing the American or you know the global clear and selling it too cheap because we get ripped off here in Australia. So obviously someone found out that you can import it from America or Europe or whatever and still sell it cheaper than PPG Australia. So their way around it was to make a specific clear and make it here. Yeah, we really do get ripped off with quite a lot of stuff down here in Aussie land. There's a couple of chunks in the doors. The body doesn't look too bad though. One big chunk up there. So what I'm going to do is go out and clean out my base coat gun. That'll take a few minutes. And by that time I'll come back in and put the last coat of clear on. See you in a minute. So ready to put that last coat of clear coat down. Now when I started on this job, because it's a car yard job, my boss told me, he said, oh, you can just blend it up the pillar there, but nah man, nah, it just, for what it takes man, it's an extra five minutes worth of work for me, and then who's to say that they won't get it out the back and burn through, and then, I don't know, it just looks like crap. I know certain people do it. Certain people prefer doing it that way, but bring one down the bottom here, you know, because it's so low. But yeah. But on the other hand, I'm not going to argue, you know, like, he gave me the option. He said, oh, you can just blend it up there if you like. Sometimes I've worked for bosses and they will argue the point. They're like, oh, no, don't do it. I'm like, okay, whatever, man. You're the boss. I mean, there's obviously got to be a line that you draw at some point where you're not willing to go below a certain amount of quality, and then you move on, don't you? Like those bloody coppers, mate, here in Australia, kicking 70-year-old women down to the street who dare protest, and then clubbing them in the head when they're on the ground. Mate, I don't care what Dan Andrews tells me to do, or my police chief commissioner, I'm not doing that. So as far as I'm concerned, mate, the pigs that do that kind of shit, they are scumbags. They are bad people. You can say I'm just following orders up to a certain point, but then when you get to that certain point, mate, that's you. You're the one that smashed that 70-year-old woman in the head for daring to protest. Dirty, stinking, rotten copper cunts, mate. Oh, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that. Let's just say, you didn't hear that. Sort of got that nice chunky finish to it, like the European vehicles. Baby, that's us done. That looks fine, man. That's going to be more than good enough for the car yard, mate. I tell you what, that's my favourite part. I fixed a dent there and no primer at all. It's freaking amazing, man. I nearly swore. I was getting a bit excited. But I'm going to leave this on so I don't smell all the fumes. Hopefully you can hear me as we're seeing the video out. What a beautiful gun. Very good atomization out of that starter, X5500. So there we go. Whoa! That was a pot drip. That must have got on the... There was a little bit... we'll have to sand that out tomorrow. So, it's alright. That'll come out. No biggie. I'll fix it. No! That's... Wouldn't say it's my best job, wouldn't say it's my worst job. It's more than a pass. Radio gunners, I'll see you in the next one. Gunman out. Woo! Give it a thumbs up. Awesome Gunman match too. Woo!